psychiatric hospital. And these kids, because they had very low personnel, they were basically tied to their cribs. They weren't allowed to move, they weren't allowed to interact, and they weren't allowed to play. So they did not know how to play. And a group of play workers came to visit them. And these play workers started trying to teach them how to play, because usually it's an instinct. We humans, we know how to play instinctively. These kids had completely lost that, which meant they had no speech, very few could walk. I mean, it's a very, very sad thing. And gradually, through very sort of subtle play work, the kids began to learn how to talk. They began to learn how to socialize. And that led to movement. And by the end of it, almost all of the kids were fully functioning human beings. And before these play workers arrived, they were about to be sent off to a psychiatric unit, basically, and sort of deemed, brain dead or something like that. So it's a really fascinating paper. I think also I wanted to bring up the fact of a need for kids is to feel empowered. And I'm going to sort of talk a little bit about some of the findings that we have found through our work at Talkoot, and hopefully share that knowledge with you. But we still don't know very much. So one thing what I think is that I think a lot of the time people have the right intentions. They are going out and they're wanting to find what a kid needs through play. However, what they're discovering is what a kid wants. And these things are two very, very different things. And it's all down to your approach and your methodology. So if you go out and you have a workshop, which we did, where you ask kids to design, the apps that they would love to have, what do they do most of the time but design what they already know? Usually there's diamonds in there, there's stars, there's points, there's earning things, all of this, game mechanics. And I also think that a lot of this has to sometimes be down to the school system problem, is that the school system doesn't necessarily, in the majority of cultures, raise kids to think out of the box, to think creatively. They raise kids to sort of regurgitate information about what they already know. And we find this a lot, that it's so difficult to, especially from 6 upwards, to pull kids out of that and get them into thinking about something completely different. So, I think that's that, all I wanted to say on that. So basically, I think it takes a lot of time. I think when we're trying to come up with ideas, we want it to come from a gut instinct, that we think this is something playful that kids will really enjoy and find a lot of pleasure from. We're not ultimately thinking, what does the kid need through this? So in order to find out what the kid needs, I think it takes a lot of time. And you need to work on it for a while. Petra and I both work on this product or series of toys that's called Top Alive. And it started 3 years ago. It's the main goal with this was basically to design a role-playing game based on dollhouse play, but taking it into a digital space that could enhance the play. And we were very focused around imagination here. I have a big thing about action toys, or toys that have any IP behind them. The problem with them is a kid gets Chewbacca, okay, I'm out of what, Elsa, and then they're sort of stuck to a certain storyline because they've watched the movie, they know what that character is, they can't really elaborate around that character or make their own story. So the idea with Talkoot, which was our first one, was that the characters are quite sort of bland in a way. We're trying to not make them have too much personality or too much expression, because we want the kids to be able to add that. And then it was also very much set in the everyday world. We wanted kids to be able to role-play stories and explore their everyday lives. But what we found out after Talkoot was that kids, one of their needs was really to be able to see themselves in the game or in the play. these very bland dolls weren't enough. They still needed to be able to create themselves and their friends and their families. So the next one app in the series was Talk Life City, and we added in, here is a hair salon machine, and you can colour your hair.
Is that you?
That is me.
Yeah,
That's my alter ego, and I'm transgender. I've got a beard. I love it.
You don't have a beard on this picture.
No, you're right. I don't know what happened.
There's a bug in this picture.
my character in the app is called Hillo. And then we also added that you can change your clothes. So it's very much about customization. So here, what was also wonderful about this with the hair salon machine is you moved away from gender completely. You had a template that started with a certain hairstyle, but as you moved through and added new hairstyles, it began to get very, non-binary, and then as you added clothes, so the original character could sort of change very easily in regards to its gender. We also discovered on top of this, and we developed it a lot through, we get loads and loads of reviews which we read from kids, and we also got loads of posts on Instagram about being able to see yourself in the app is very much also about representation. And Petter is going to talk much more about that after me. But here's just a great quote from a kid who basically suffers themselves from some sort of disability, and they're just really appreciating that we're putting all different types of characters in the app. Another thing that we really do as a rule is we try and lower ourselves, like kids in everyday lives. It's always they're being directed by adults. Adults are telling them what to do. A lot of the time they're not being able to teach us, and that's what we want. We want the kids to teach us. So it's not about us telling a kid what they should do or directing them. We try and step right back out of the picture, and we try and empower them to be like, you're the expert here. What is it that you're finding? Great, so this is just an example of one of our sort of kids play sessions that we have. And what's great about this particular app is it's multi-touch. So 2 or even more kids can sort of play together. And that means that you, as the tester or the play worker or whatever, you can totally step out of it and just allow them to interact together. So I'll just play a bit for you.
Jaha, vi måste hitta han som är i kassan. Här borde... Nej, jag tycker att han borde vara i kassan. Han är ju chaufför. Och det här är en katt som är här. Jag vill ta med det. Så, nej men han. Kaninmat. Kaniner gillar också kål. Jag vet, jag ska ta fler kaninmat. Morötter, för de har morötter.
And on the subject of empowerment, the idea with Talk Life is almost anything you see in it you can pick up and play with. And there's no instructions. As soon as you enter the environment, you can instantly start interacting and exploring. And it's funny, my niece, who's born in the States and still lives in the States, she's 7, I think, and she doesn't really play screen experiences like this. And she came to a testing session we had in San Francisco, and she opened the app and she was completely befuddled. She was like, what am I supposed to do? No one's telling me what to do. And she was just a bit frozen, which was really quite shocking, especially as I'm related to them, to hear that. And then, eventually she got into it and everything. But at the age of 7, that she'd lost or never even gained that exploratory sort of behavior, was terrible. And talking about behaviors, this is something that I'm personally just trying to develop along as we are spending a lot of time with kids and researching a lot of time with kids. It's something I like to think about as behavioral types. And instead of personas, the thing with a behavioral type I see is that you as an individual you can have 3 of these behavioral types or 10 of them. You can have those behavioral types in a certain context. So it's not about sort of pigeonholing you as this type. It's about you being a holistic person that also is open to changing. And this, just in my sort of work as a play designer, helps me think about what are our players, what are their needs, who are we maybe missing out, who do we need to cater for. So this also goes down to thinking about play patterns, that if you can support a variety of play patterns, you're probably being more inclusive and being able to support a variety of behavioral types. So this is an app in the series as well called Talkoot Life Hospital. And we wanted here to support the role-playing or the situation of a death in the family and the loss of that. And a lot of work's been done on this, I'm not an expert, on using role-play as therapy. And since this particular subject is a massive taboo in a lot of our cultures, I think kids find it very, very difficult to be able to work through this because no one's talking to them, no one's playing with them about it. So we wanted to provide a situation, and this is the farewell room, because also we're trying to be inclusive, we can't be too religious or, focusing on those levels. So the farewell room is somewhere where someone goes to have their final rest, and basically they close their eyes when you lie them on the bed, and they don't sleep. Like usually we have characters with snot bubbles and zzz coming out, and they don't do anything like that. It's very, very subtle. But a lot of kids pick this up.
And also if you move them from there, they come alive again. So it's not like anything permanent is happening to the character.
You are in control the whole time. And then this is more an area that's kind of quite ritualistic, where you can hold a ceremony. We also support life, so the whole circle of death and life. And just as I know, and many of you know who probably have multiple kids, it's very traumatic when another sibling comes along. I think my husband likened it to your wife or your partner going off and coming back home and saying, this is my new concubine, they are going to live with me for the rest of your life and you have to deal with it. So this is another quite hard experience in everyday life that we're trying to support for kids to roleplay through. And then also on the other side of just including different behaviours, this particular app, Talkoot Office, was very much, we usually try and keep to a very everyday life scenario. But I felt that this sort of action-orientated kind of behaviour was not being supported. So we added in this layer in Talkoot Office of all these superheroes. So you could play, and we added in the courtroom, so you could look at judgment and judging, and then also rules and responsibility.
How much time do I have?
As much as you need. At least 10 minutes.
I'm timing this to 10 minutes. Okay, so one of the goals of Talkoot Life is that we want to make sure that every child can play and also see themselves and their family and their friends. And to do this, we have to formalize this in some way of working with diversity.
What's it say? Dear Miss Doll, dear Emma's. What? You gotta be kidding me! No!
I see some crying in the room. I've seen this so many times now. I can bear it in. But so this is a 10-year-old girl called Emma, and feeling it now. So her parents sent this doll. I think it's like a classic American doll. You know what it's called? It's called this American doll. I don't remember, but it's a very typical doll. They sent this into a company called the Step Ahead Prosthetics. Has nothing to do with us. And they made this prosthetic leg that is the same as her. So what happens when you do this? Again, seeing yourself, but also for anyone else, like seeing what it's not looking like you, like me seeing this doll, because this also exists in this world. So this, of course, I think there's been a great day of many good points. This comes down to design, of course, how we design everything. Always it's about who we are excluding and who we are including, and whatever you do, like whatever you do in your life or as a designer or whatever, it will have an impact, and especially for us. So we work with this series, A Talk Alive, with a Talkoot called Talk Alive. It's played by millions every month. So I need to take more responsibility. I mean, everything we do with the design we do. But that's why I care. I feel I have to care even more, because it has such a big impact. So this is how a lot of toy stores look, and this is also definitely how toy stores looked in Sweden some years ago. It's getting better. We still have the pink and blue eyes. But what happened when we started Talkoot was that the app stores did not have pink and blue eyes. The app stores had maybe a kids section, if they even had that, but there was not kids. There was a kids section, it was not girls and boys. So that meant we could like carve in a unisex way or gender neutral apps in this new digital space instead. So we worked with gender neutrality for many years, but then we felt we wanted to do more, and about a little more than 2 years ago, our CEO framed this as a guideline for us, that no kid should ever feel excluded by Talkoot. So what does this mean then? That means starting to work more with diversity and feel like, okay, great, let's work with diversity. And then after a long while we did a lot of projects around this, I felt like, yeah, but we don't know what we need. How many in this room feel like, yeah, if I say work with diversity, could you like name exactly what you meant with that? I see no one doing this now.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of things. And it's the things you didn't think about. It was definitely the things we didn't think about. It can be a lot of things, but we know we want to do it. But if we don't know exactly what we mean with diversity, in this specifically in what we work with, how am I able to communicate to that with someone who draws the characters, or designs some system or does something? So we need words to be able to talk about it. So me and Chris, who's here, two white people, thought a lot about this, and we ended up with these 7 aspects. So these 7 aspects is not like, great, Talkoot define diversity for the world. No, it's these are 7 things you can look at within diversity, and these are the 7 things we look at when we make our products, when we define diversity in the creative outcome of our products. You can, of course, do a lot of other things. There's also some other things we look at, socioeconomic status, some other things. But I will work these through, not all of them, but some of them. So this was then created as a tool, and we defined each of these things, and this was because they felt best things to focus for when designing for kids. So I will show now how they are applied in Talkoot Life series when it comes to mainly characters. So first we have physical characteristics. This means that all the characters have a variation of skin tones, but also hair types and hair colors. It could also be the colors of the eyes, but in this specific app, all the eyes are black dots. So in this series, there is nothing more with eye color. Functional variety. This means including different examples of functional variety such as ability and disabilities in the character lineup, but it's also objects. So these glasses can be worn by anyone, and anyone can sit in the wheelchair. With gender, we always try to break stereotypes of which gender is doing what, such as which profession, who is default starting by the stove making dinner, or who can be the police. We always try to think about gender as a scale, and on top of that also including in the start characters that we define as non-binary, that are designed to be non-binary. I really like this one. This was a little revelation to me, thinking about family structure. So this means including and showing different types of family structures that are represented. So it's not only the classic nuclear family or nuclear heterosexual family. So this could be grandparent families, single parent families, multicultural families, etc. And then also in the character lineups, this is age. And this is a lot about giving giving agency to both young and old, such as grandma can be a surgeon, but also little baby can wear what he wants and be cool. Yeah. So again, what I talked about is we need to be able to talk about this. So how do we work together in making this happen? Always we have to remember that we are learning together. We are never done with this. I definitely feel that many times. I felt when I saw the H&M thing happening, and I'm like, oh, could that have happened at our company like a year ago? Maybe, maybe not. But it's like, yeah, you learn.
What was the H&M thing?
We can take that later. But it was a big Google H&M news, and you will find it. There were riots in South Africa for real, so it was terrible. Yeah, so we can always learn more, and we will do it together. Also, coming back to if you go to your company or wherever you are, and like, hey artist, you were drawing everything. Let's do all the things now, and they will be like, but we already have this deadline. And I want to do it, but it's too many things. Like, and this is so important to know that, like, we will do some things now. We can do some things later. In this product, we can look at these things, and in another product, we can look at eye color because we didn't do it in this product, etc. So always thinking about the overall portfolio should be diverse. But when you have an opportunity to do something good, take it if you can. And also in that, try to be what we call norm creative. So be creative instead of just following the norms. And when you work together, always know that nobody is perfect. At Tokaboka, there's a lot of people coming from different countries, also having different backgrounds in other ways. Someone might say something at some point, and you're like, "What? That was sexist," or "Why? This is not my view on feminism," and then you need to like step back and like, maybe the person saying this is not an idiot. Maybe I shouldn't like call it out and be super angry. Maybe I should just ask, like, what did you mean by that? Oh, I feel like this about this thing. And you probably are in a place where most people are like, yeah, I want to do good stuff. Maybe you don't have the same picture about what that is, but then you should talk about it. So always assuming good intentions I feel is super important. So just reminding ourselves then that the goal with the live series is that we're doing all this so you can see and play yourself or your friends and family that, but also this thing about seeing people and other things, cultural things, that is not in my everyday. So why we're doing this is, of course, we want to create these inclusive and empowering experiences for kids all over the world. And one of my favorite examples of this, I will not say myself. They will come here now.
And Talkoot is a good game for people because they're free to do anything they want to do, but really can't do in real life.
Like what?
like steal stuff.
You go home and steal stuff.
I can move the mic if you want.
I can do it.
Okay. Yeah. So a few questions. Yeah.
I have one question. It's actually for everyone. They might relate to it. How we as designers can guide or help students or kids who are building so many good things and advanced things to actually bring meaning to what they are building.
Can you repeat?
Do you want to repeat?
Okay.
Yeah.
So how can we as designers
Guide.
How can we as designers guide? You can.
So
You need to put it through the floor.
my question is to everyone here, how we as designers can guide kids or students to bring meaning to what they are building.
Do you have a...
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
I can say something. I think it's how you define meaning, because I think a kid playing, at least in what we are working on, that is very meaningful for them if it's personal and they can see themselves and basically everything that we were just saying. But I guess it's what you mean by what is meaningful. Is it about meaningful to the kid? Is it about meaningful to us?
As the youth is the future and like the power of future, I would rather define meaning as meaning to their life or meaning to their future. For instance, kids, a third grade student, like I saw by myself in Helsinki schools, they build robots and they already have the procedure of building a smart shopping cart. Like that is an assignment which I did in my university, like the master's university last year. And this kid who is like just from third grade has an idea. He definitely has an idea of how to do and what to do things, but does it actually bringing meaning to his life for future?
So you mean if they're just following instructions?
Yes.
That's basically what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's about giving them the tools and the space to be able to be imaginative and create something that's unique.
Yeah.
Mm.
Any other questions? We can also continue the discussions afterwards. So please pick applause to Peter and Milo. Thank you. Okay, so next, Chase, welcome.
Yes.
So you can plug your computer. And Leila will come to say a few words.
Yes. Jais is a creative producer from Lego. Jais joined Lego Group quite some years ago, and he's particularly passionate about play design and how this is turned into child-friendly user experiences. He has been a key driver and lead creative on Lego preschool experiences for Lego Duplo and Lego Junior since some years ago. Welcome, guys. Cliffhanger will celebrate all of our talks today and Jais's talk and the beginning of our Talkoot by some sparkling right after Jais's talk, which will be around the corner.
Around the corner.
Yeah. And after that we'll be moving to Brukkeri for dinner and after talks.
When you go there, you just say, I'm going to the Talkoot after party.
All right.
I'll follow you. Alright. Hi guys. So I realized